Hello and welcome to Chapter 6, Lesson 6. Today we're going to be talking about how to multiply decimals by powers of 10. Now when I'm talking about powers of 10, I'm talking about 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million. Those are all powers of 10. So let's get started. Josh will need to make 10 payments of $32.25 to purchase a new skimboard. Here's somebody skimboarding. What is the total cost of the skimboard? Okay, so the first option I have is to just plain old multiply it out. Okay, if I multiply 0 through, I'm going to get a row of zeros. Then I add my 0 here, multiply the 1 through. So when I added these up, then I see I have 2 digits to the right of the decimal, so I bring it back 1, 2. So I know it is $322.50 is how much his new skimboard will cost. Now, that's kind of your fallback. If you forget this new trick I'm going to teach you, that was the fallback method. Just multiply it out. Okay, but there's a little trick here. Multiplying a decimal by 10 moves the decimal point one place to the right. This is a great thing to write as a note into your notebook. Okay, so if I'm going to multiply this number, $32.25 by 10, I just move my decimal point one place to the right. So I know it's $322.50. Now that works for every number, right guys? So if I have 25 and I want to multiply it by 10, my decimal point is here. I don't usually write it there, but it is there. Okay, and I move it one place to the right, so multiplying 25 by 10 is 250. Okay, if I multiply 7 by 10, okay, here's my decimal point. If I had $7, I'd write it like this, right? So $7, move it one, multiply it by 10, and I get 70. So, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, moving it once. Maybe you just haven't quite made that connection. So 322, that's why we're practicing it today, so we can make that connection. $322.50. Numbers like 10, 100, and 1,000 are called powers of 10. They can be written with exponents with a base of 10. So like 10 is 10 to the first power. 100 is 10 to the second power. Notice that the exponent correlates to the number of zeros in the number. 1,000 is 10 to the third power. So for example, what I mean by that is it's 10 to the third power, 3 zeros. 10 to the second power, 2 zeros. 10 to the first power, 1 0. We can make that connection there. Here we go. There's 1 0 in 10. The exponent on 10 is 1. 10 to the first power is 1. There are 2 zeros in 100. The exponent on 10 to the second power is 2. There are 3 zeros in 1,000. The exponent on 10 to the third power is 3. Okay, and that tells us how many spots we have to move our decimal point. And then we kind of get to the question of, well, do I know if I'm going to move it this way, or what if I'm going to move it that way? Left or right? Which way do I go? Okay, if we're multiplying, our number's getting larger. Okay, so if I have 7 and I move it this way, now I have a decimal point. That made it smaller. So if I'm multiplying, it's always going to move to the right. If I'm dividing, it's going to move to the left. Maybe we'll make that note on the next page, because we just have like a little note here. So let's write this down. Multiplying moves decimal. Now this is only powers of 10. Moves the decimal to the right. And dividing moves the decimal to the left. For powers of 10 only. Can we use this trick? Okay, let's see. To multiply a decimal by a power of 10, I'm reading up here now. Move the decimal point to the right, the same number of zeros in the power of 10. This is also the same number as the exponent on 10. Okay, so this is like a trick. Write this in your notebook. This needs to get in there. And the last stuff, when we're talking about 10 moves it once. 100 moves the decimal point twice. 1,000 moves the decimal point 3 times, and so on. Let's try an example here. Okay, so this is just kind of like, there's not really a lot of math I need to do here, but just kind of let's read through it. Find 24 and 7/10 times 10 to the second power. So we're looking at that little 2 there. Since 10 to the second power equals 100, we really they're asking us to find 24 and 7/10 times 100. Okay, so my option, if I forget the trick, is I can multiply it out. Okay, now look at all that work. Whereas here, I would need to add a 0. They call it annexing a 0. Add it in. I would move it 2 spots. So now I get the answer of 2,470. Why did I move it 2 spots? 2 zeros. 2 zeros. Okay, so 2,470 is our answer. And that's a heck of a lot easier than this. But if you forget how to do this trick, you just do it that way. And you'll still get the same answer. It's just kind of, do you want to do live work? Do you not want to do live work? That's kind of where we're at. Okay, so I have 54 hundredths times 10. So I know I'm going to move it 1 spot to the right. And that is 5 and 4/10. Now, here, I'm not showing a lot of work, but I need to see this part for work. Multiplying it by 100, maybe we'll do that too. We'll circle how many zeros, and we'll make the same number of moves. So here I have 2. 1, 2. So this is 832. I'm multiplying by 1,000. I've got 3 zeros there, so I need to move it 1, 2, and I'm going to need to annex a 0. So I should get 7,460 for my answer there. All right. Now this is not too tricky when I'm doing it on its own, but as soon as it gets mixed into other things, that's when kids revert back to just multiplying it out. Okay, so this needs to kind of find a nice little trick spot in your brain so that you can remember, I just need to do the trick. I don't need to do it all out. So we'll practice that tomorrow. Thanks for watching.